Hi. Thank you for having us here. First of all, this presentation isn't quite yet complete, so it's still in the works. And as you may know already, English is not my first language, so I apologize in advance for a little bit of weird accent over there. Um, First of all, we are going to talk about our backgrounds. Ignacio first.
Hello, yeah, my name is Ignacio. Just as Kevin said, English is also not my first language. So, I mean, I really want you to feel free at any time to, I mean, if something we say doesn't sound, quite right, just raise your hand and maybe we'll try to find a way to say it again. But yeah, we're very happy to be here. Well, I'm supposed to introduce myself. My name is Ignacio. I've been working in the craft brewing industry in Mexico in the ingredient side for about 8 years. And well, I did have a homebrew spell before that, but I'm mostly not a homebrewer. And yeah, I mean, we're very excited about this presentation. This is a project that we're very happy. We are giving this presentation for HomebrewCon. So this is going to be like a practice. As Kevin said, it's not quite finished. I promise it's going to get better after working some more time on it, but well, really happy to be here. And Kevin?
As for me, my name is Kevin Estrada. Right now, I'm the current president of the THC, Tijuana Homebrew Club. So we're going to talk about, first of all, a little bit of the history in Mexico, starting with the big ass companies. So what you have in front is one Mexican pale lager that it's actually from a Mexican company that it's Loba from Guadalajara. And the other one, it's Negra Modelo. For this part in HomebrewCon, we're going to have a couple of beers that were brewed by Marco Valderrain from the THC. But right now those beers are still lagering, so we weren't able to bring them. So these are the specs we are expecting for those beers. And yeah.
So yeah, the main topic of a presentation will be about homebrewed beers in Mexico, and the tastings that we're going to be giving at the actual conference are going to be homebrewed beers. However, to give a bit of context, I mean, we are going to start the presentation talking about some of the history of brewing, not only homebrew, but brewing, because I think it's very interesting for people to just get a bit of idea of how rich the history of brewing in Mexico is, even though today we kind of see with a bit scorn to the big guys, but I mean, there's a very big Mexican tradition in brewing. So, well, we're going to be, it's not a history class, but we're going to just talk about it just to give a bit of context, no? So, really, barley brewing in Mexico, it's actually quite old. It started in 1542. That was where the first barley brewery started in Mexico. It was founded by a civilian called Alonso de Herrera in a place close to what is now Mexico City. And it's curious because it is suspected that Alonso de Herrera was founded by Flemish entrepreneurs, and well, they kind of saw some potential in Mexico. However, that enterprise didn't last that long. Apparently, the last data that we have is from 10 years after it was after the brewery started, and after that, there kind of really nothing seemed to have happened in Mexico regarding beer for a long time. Really, actually, all the Spanish colonies during those centuries weren't big about beer. They were more, I mean, Spain was much more popular for their wine production and even some spirits, not really about beer. So Mexico kind of was in line with that. So for about 300 years, there was not much activity going on. until the second half of the 19th century, we started seeing the inception of what are now the big breweries. Why did they start it? There were like several reasons. First of all, I don't know if too many people of you guys know, but we had an Austrian emperor that was imposed after a French invasion of Mexico. So it is said that this guy, he was called Maximilian, he brought with him the Vienna style lager to Mexico. So he traveled with, some brewers traveled with him, and the Vienna lager started to be produced in Mexico. So this emperor didn't last that long, but the brewers did, and the style certainly did until today. And there was also a couple of reasons. Just as it happened here and in many other places, we had like an influx of German-speaking people, immigrants, who naturally they were very good brewers. And also we started seeing a lot of commerce. We started having a lot of imports of beer from Europe, which was something that wasn't happening in the couple of centuries before that. So we had like a couple of reasons happening at the same time, but the main point is that in the second half of the 19th century, we start seeing like brewing exploding, which is funny because we know we're living now through a craft beer explosion, and we're seeing many breweries popping up around the world. In the late 1800s, it is said that there was also a movement, kind of global, very different to what is now, but the number of brewers kind of were increasing in many places in the world. I understand that the US is an example, but Mexico is also an example of that. And so, yeah, I mean, as we said, the file itself is not quite ready, so obviously we're going to make it a lot cleaner by then, but here what we show is how many of the breweries at that time started. By the 1850, there was pretty much no commercial brewery in Mexico, but by the early 20th century, there were around 35, and they were all spread across the territory. Most of them had some Germanic influence in them. Many of them had some German or Austrian owners, but even those who didn't, they were making like Germanic beer styles, mainly lagers, obviously pilsners, and Vienna style lagers were very popular. So here we have the examples of 6 of the breweries that are probably most relevant today, that were founded during that time, late 1800s or early 1900s. So just to go quickly with them, we had in Toluca, a city that's quite close to Mexico City. We had in 1865 probably the oldest brewery in Mexico, which was Compañía Cervecera Toluca. It was founded by a Swiss immigrant, but 10 years after it was founded, it changed ownership to an Austrian brewer. And well, they are very relevant because they introduced the brand Victoria, Vienna style lager. It was introduced in 1906. Then, very relevant as well, we had Cervecería Cuauhtémoc, which was founded in Monterrey in 1889. It was founded by Mexican entrepreneurs, but they had between them, they brought with him a Missourian brewer. His last name was Schneider, so he had some kind of Germanic heritage with him. And well, this brewery was the one that introduced to the market the brands Carta Blanca and Bohemia, which, well, Carta Blanca kind of resembles an American style lager. Bohemia is kind of more like it's watered down, no, or at least right now, but it's kind of resembling more like an European style pilsner. Importantly, we also have a Cervecería Moctezuma in Orizaba in southeast Mexico. They introduced a brand Dos X, also a Vienna style lager in 1997. Well, we may know the pale Dos X right now, but originally it was only the Vienna, the amber style. In 1901, we had in Mazatlan, Cervecería del Pacífico. They introduced the brand Pacifico, which we know today is a pale style lager, but back then they also had a darker lager. I wasn't able to find too much information on that one, but I mean, I did find that there were two beers when they started. And very importantly as well is in 1925 in Mexico City, Grupo Modelo was founded. Obviously, the brewery that was behind the brands Corona and Negra Modelo, loosely based on the styles Pilsner and Munich Dunkel. And the newest of those will be Cervecería Tecate, which was founded in 1944 with a pale, very crispy beer. So we have here some pictures about the brewers themselves. Kevin is a civil engineer, so he wanted to talk a little bit about the buildings itself because they were quite interesting as well.
As Nacho was saying, you can now see that most of the Mexican lagers, both pale and amber lager, were based mostly on Pilsners and Vienna lagers. If you are familiar with the BJCP and the history that comes in the section of Vienna lager, and the classic examples, most of those examples aren't from Austria, are from Mexico, and there are Mexican lagers. I think you cannot go to Europe and ask for a Vienna lager. It's more likely to find that in Mexico. And yeah, as Nacho was saying, I'm a civil engineer, so I actually find this interesting. The first building is the Cervecería Toluca. That brewery doesn't exist anymore. It was absorbed by Grupo Modelo, and the building still exists, but it was used as a museum, then as a cinema, and right now it's only a parking lot. But the same structure you can see in that picture, that building still exists. Also, the second one, that it's Cervecería Cuauhtémoc, that building also still exists, and it's still the headquarters of Cervecería Cuauhtémoc. The same with Pacifico and Moctezuma, both buildings still exist with the brewery. Tecate is a really new one. I think the building is not the same, but it's still placed in the same location. And this building doesn't exist anymore. They have like this really big plan and a big corporative building. So for me, that's interesting. I hope some of you find that interesting too.
So one of our key points that we want to make is, we are suspecting that maybe not many people in the US, I don't know if about you guys, but many people might not know that we kind of have two different versions of Mexican lager. Actually, if you ask, the term Mexican lager is more a thing in the US than it is actually in Mexico. In Mexico, people might not be too sure to tell what type of beer are you referring with that term. But one of our key points is to let you know that we have historically the amber Mexican lagers and the pale Mexican lagers. So from the beers that we talked about, we just group them in the two big categories by color, and we're going to have the idea of you guys tasting these beers is to we're showing up a survey. We're not showing it here. We're showing up in the conference to let you guys tell us which style did you know about. If you knew both, if you didn't know any, that's fine. And having you taste them, and also you will be able to tell in the survey which did you like. Which did you enjoy the most? Did you enjoy both, or did you enjoy any? That's fine as well. Mm,
I've seen there you guys are most of you are brewing Mexican lagers, but I actually don't know which ones do you prefer. Do you do the Vienna Mexican lager? Do you do the pale Mexican lager? Um, I've seen both in the commercial breweries, but which one do you like to brew? Which one do you like to taste better? The amber one, the pale one?
Actually, yeah, we can do a very
The pale ones? Yeah, that's something I find really common here in San Diego. That you prefer the pale Mexican lagers. You're used to that, and really hoppy ones also. Um, yeah, for as for me, I really like better the Vienna Mexican lager, the amber one. Um, it's nice to know that you go with the San Diego flow of the beer.
Has anyone here brewed amber style Mexican lagers? I know Brian said, but nice, great. Are you talk here or are you at your talk in Hombricon? Okay, okay.
Yeah, so you can try 4 different Mexican lagers if you attend to both Brian's and ours. So will be a fun experiment.
And so what happened next in Mexico on the second half of the 1900s? We started seeing some consolidation amongst breweries, very similar to what happened here. So all those 35 breweries that were active in the early 1900s, they either closed or were absorbed by the two big brewing groups that are present in Mexico, which will be Heineken Mexico, which just a few years ago it was renamed like Heineken Mexico. Before that, it was called Cervecería Cuauhtémoc Moctezuma. And we also have AB InBev owning Grupo Modelo. And so those two groups control 99.2% of the market. However, that 0.8 is actually a very vibrant. I mean, I know many of you guys have been down there in Mexico, and there's just so many stories, so many people, so many breweries. I mean, that 0.8% is very interesting right now. And well, just as happened here, we are seeing like not as developed, but we are also seeing a craft beer explosion that started in the late 90s and early 2000s. That's where we started seeing the first independent microbreweries. And here we have some of the earliest players. We have around Mexico City, we have a brew pub chain called Beer Factory. The first one opened in 1997. Having a very similar concept in Monterrey, we have Sierra Madre Brewing Company, also a brew pub chain. Also in Guadalajara, we have Cerveza Minerva, founded in 2004. That's right now the largest craft brewery in Mexico. And in San Jose del Cabo, in South Baja, we have Baja Brewing opening in 2007. They opened a brew pub back then. Right now they have even a bigger production facility in Tijuana, right next to the border. And also very important in Mexico City suburbs, we have Cervecería Calavera, also established in 2008. So these are some of the most important early players that are still active and have not been sold. And
we did include like Cucapa or Cervecería Tijuana because those guys were bought by Grupo Modelo. And really interesting, it's Baja Brewing. I think it's owned by an American, and Calavera, it's owned by, I think it's
Danish.
Danish.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Minerva was founded by father and son after they went to a trip to Europe and came back to Mexico and were like, why are there so many styles of beer? And here we only have Mexican pale lagers and Vienna amber Mexican lagers.
And we also, I'm going to show you very quickly some numbers of the current state of craft brewing in Mexico. Do we have a slide on? Oh, okay, nice. So it's very exciting to see that we have some huge growth in 10 years. I mean, we've been having 10 years with pretty much growing double size every year. No, double numbers, I mean, every year. So, I mean, what we mean is in 2012, we were producing 13,000 barrels of craft beer in Mexico. In 2022, that went up to 290,000 barrels. So we're having a growth of about 37.5% in average every year. And what's also very interesting is that craft beer is really popping up almost all across the territory. So we have numbers of the percentage that each state produce, and only 7 of the 32 states produce less than 1%. So yeah, I mean, it means that 25 of them produce more than 1%. So that tells me that really craft brewing is all over the place. And well, for craft brewing, the most important states will be Baja California, again, right across the border. That's a state that produces the largest number with 18% of all craft beer in Mexico. And we have Jalisco, that's where Minerva is. They produce 17.3% of craft beer. Nuevo León, which is where Monterrey is, they produce almost 14%. Mexico City, 10.6%. And we also have a very small state close to Jalisco that produces 7.1%.
Curiously, the 7.1% of brewing in Colima is produced by only 2 breweries. In Baja, that 18% is like around 50 breweries, you say?
Yes, I mean, it's not as concentrated in one single player as it is in Colima.
Okay, so we are talking about now the same stuff, but regarding homebrewing. So these are the current homebrew clubs in Mexico. We don't have as many as you have. Only in San Diego, you have like, I don't know, like 10 homebrew clubs. But we have, as you see, the largest state in producing craft beer is the one that has also the largest influence in homebrewing. That is Baja California, where you can find 4 homebrew clubs. That is the Tijuana Homebrew Club, the Ensenada Cerveceros Caseros de Ensenada, Cerveceros Caseros de San Quintín, y Cerveceros Caseros de Mexicali. Almost one for each city. We have this the third one that is really big. That is Lupuleros from Guadalajara. One homebrew club in Mexico City, one homebrew club in Querétaro, one in Monterrey, one in Chihuahua, a couple of 2 in Guanajuato. That is the Cerveceros Caseros de León and Celaya, and one in Tabasco. That is the only one in the southern region of Mexico. So in this one we are, yeah. I didn't get that, sorry. No, it's one club, independent club, yeah. They use the name Cerveceros because it's the same as brewers. So yeah, they name cerveceros and the state, but it's different clubs. Most of them, they don't even have like interaction with the other clubs. Okay, so right now we are hearing Gosset, that it's also from Loba, from Guadalajara. This one is brewed with guava. And we are also pouring an porter with coffee. Homebrewed, we are serving Imperial Porter with vanilla from Veracruz and coffee beans from Veracruz and Oaxaca. Also brewed by one member of the THC. And in the side of the sour beer, we're having a gusa with mango, brewed by brewers from Ensenada.
So we have some more info to show that we will show at the actual conference. We did a survey to all these homebrew clubs, and we are very excited because we got information that probably no one had researched before. Unfortunately, we didn't have the time to include it in this file, but yeah, I mean, we have some interesting things to show about them. And also, the idea of serving these beers right now is to, because next we're going to be talking about the beer styles that are mostly brewed and homebrewed in Mexico. And well, probably one of the most interesting things about brewing in Mexico is the richness of ingredients and fruits and spices and all that we have. So we're having a sour beer that it's made with guava, I mean, a fruit, and also, I don't know how many people in the US also realize, but we have a lot of vanilla and coffee and well, chocolate in Mexico. So those are also very popular in darker style of beers in both homebrew and the craft beer scene.
Okay, yeah, I don't have a slide for this, but I will actually want to talk to you about this one. We have the three biggest clubs in Mexico are the Tijuana one, that it's Tijuana Homebrew Club. We have over 150 members, and it's actually the one with the biggest attendance in Mexico. And we usually have like 50 members in average in every meeting. We have a meeting every fourth week on Thursday, sometimes Tuesday. Next is the Lupuleros Homebrew Club from Guadalajara that was founded in 2017. They have around 60 members. And Cerveceros Caseros de Ensenada that has around also 60 members are the three biggest clubs. I don't know how many active members do you have in Barley Engineers? Do you know the rough estimate? Around 100. Over 100. Okay, great. Yeah, I think most of the San Diego clubs have like around those numbers. Coop, I think it has over 200, maybe.
So this will be the second biggest club if it was in Mexico.
Yeah. Yeah. At Taufo, it's one mango variety. Well, I think the great thing about this is that you can find these fruits, but you will find it like really expensive, or it won't be as easy to find like in Mexico. I mean, who has brew a beer with fruit and used actual fruit here? Okay, great. I think like at homebrew level, you can do it. Yeah, this one is with guava because it's the example that we could find, but the one we are showing then, it's going to be mango. But at homebrew level, you can buy the fruit. But if you're brewing like in a commercial level, you will end using flavorings or puree or something like that. And in Mexico, we don't actually. Really big breweries use actual fruit because it's cheaper, and they don't mind. Actually, the one you're drinking right now, they use a lot of pounds of guava in the fermenter. so they use any artificial flavoring or whatever. We also, yeah, another thing we want to talk about in the homebrew comp, but we don't have a slide for it. It's like the homebrew preferences in Mexico. That at least most of the clubs and mostly in Baja California, the beers we brew the most are hoppy beers, IPAs. So it's mainly of the influence we have from you guys. And also because we can get like fresher hops here in Baja because we only have to cross the border. Even if we buy from Yakima, it's almost the same trip of for the hops being here in San Diego than being in TJ. So we have like really fresh hops.
Yeah, it was notable for me that every single club that answered the survey had hoppy beers as their favorite category of beer. I mean, all of them had that in their answers. But maybe hoppy beers are not. You might not find hoppy beers from Mexico as special as probably adjunct beers. So we're bringing you the adjunct ones.
Yeah, we have. I don't know if it has something to do with, but the least favorite style to brew in Mexico it's our lagers. Maybe it's because if we are searching for home craft beer or whatever, we are not going to do whatever we can find in the store at your block or whatever. So, and I think it's also because you need better equipment to brew lagers, to ferment lagers. Most of I think like only half of the brewers in the THC have like the system to ferment at lager temperatures. So that's something to point. And also, we want to talk about the type of goods of barrel aging beers we can brew in Mexico and other sugars we can use. So I don't think you have like the information.
Yeah, I don't know if we have a slide of that because I don't remember by memory, but yeah, I mean we're going to have later on a slide trying to show some numbers, actual numbers, like what percentage of beers of homebrewed beers are roughly one style or the other, and we're going to show examples of all the adjuncts that came on the survey. Of everything, of fruits, of spices, of barrel aging. We have also honey.
So yeah, that's mostly all the information we have for you guys. Yeah. Yeah. Do you have any questions?
Thanks. It was a great presentation, and it's so interesting to hear about the history and culture of brewing and homebrewing in Mexico. So I was just curious about what you said about the mangoes. Or I probably didn't hear it correct, but did you say that some breweries are using it as like a cheap adjunct because they can find it easily?
Oh no. What I said is that you can find really cheap and more easily a lot of fruits. So you don't need to use purees or artificial flavorings or stuff like that. Yeah, most of the time is real fruit. Yep.
Just a comment with your porter with vanilla. I think you guys need to brag that vanilla comes from Mexico.
Yeah.
So yeah, point that out to all those homebrewers that are gonna be at the conference. Yeah.
Yeah. Both the coffee and the
it's
vanilla.
such a popular ingredient in beer right now. So brag. Yeah. Because a lot of people don't know that.
I don't know. Is there any other questions or comments?
The dark lagers are based on a Vienna lager, but I thought you said that Negro Modelo was loosely based on a Munich Dunkel. Is there a reason why they went German as opposed to the Viennese style?
So yeah, I mean, I don't really know what motivated them to do so. Grupo Modelo was not founded by German or Austrian brewers. It was founded by Spanish entrepreneurs. I mean, I don't really know what motivated them to do a Munich Dunkel. I don't think it's a Munich Dunkel at all. They market their beer as such. Yeah, I mean, I think it's a bit closer to a Vienna style lager in reality. But yeah, well, they market the beer as a Munich Dunkel. I don't know back then. It would be interesting to have a time machine and trying to taste the original beer. What was it? Because I assume many of these beers have like a more European beer profile than what they have today. But yeah.
Thank you.
Adding to that, I think that it happened almost like it happened here in America, that barley malt weren't as accessible and as cheap. So in Mexico and here in America, they're starting using other fermentables like corn, maybe rice, and stuff like that. So maybe it started as a Dunkel, but it started adding adjuncts, mostly corn. So ended up like being this profile that it's softer and it's lighter.
Are you folks planning to talk about the frequency of styles in the craft brew industry? I know you're talking about in the homebrew, and I understand because it's HomebrewCon. But I was really surprised down there judging for the recent competition that I judged with you, which was commercial, at how broad the variety of beers that were being brewed down there, because I had judged homebrewed before down there, and how many people are brewing sours and grape ales and really interesting beers, and strongly European influenced. I thought it was really interesting. I think it would be really interesting to the HomebrewCon folks.
Yeah, so we are showing a slide for each like broad style category, and we're going to show some numbers of the survey that we sent to the homebrew clubs. And unfortunately, I mean, I don't know how to get that information related to the craft beer industry. I mean, I would love to be able to show you, oh, look, like roughly 10% of the craft beers by production are hoppy beers, no? But I don't know. We're going to be talking about what we perceive. So also when we show the slides of the hoppy beer styles, I mean, we're going to say it's not only the most popular craft beer style among the home brewers, it's also very popular among craft brewers. It's the styles that have the larger amount of entries at every beer competition. But so yeah, we're talking what our perception of on each style category, but yeah, unfortunately we don't have like data, like real data to show.
So hoppy beers are most popular with consumers, so they're most popular with breweries, since that is the point in the end. But yeah, they do. I was really pleased to see the broad range of styles that were brewed, and the frequency of European beers and other just more creative styles of beers.
Yeah, and thank you. I mean, it's a good comment. I mean, we'll make sure of talking about it when we're giving the actual presentation. And well, we're also making some effort on getting some real numbers. I don't know if we're going to get them, but yeah, thank you.
I have a question for the Tijuana Homebrew Club brewers. What are the most popular styles that THC brewers like to brew?
Okay. You can see meeting after meeting, you will find hoppy styles as number one, IPAs and pale ales. After that, you'll find a lot of sours, and every meeting at least one stout or one porter, but the stouts almost every time have like coffee or maybe chocolate or something like that. In THC, most of the brewers like to experiment a lot with their beers. We also have at least one beer with fruit every meeting. So I speaking about the other brewers, because I myself, I like classic styles and I like to brew true to style. But yeah, other guys are like really crazy about experimenting with beers, adding fruits. Like they are doing like this fruited blonde ale or coffee porters. Well, we have a lot of really great coffee porters from brewers of the Homebrew Club.
We've got a couple questions over Zoom. Lauren?
One of the questions from our Zoomers is why don't some parts of Mexico have any homebrew clubs at all?
I think it's mostly from the influence of the brewers near to you. Most of the states don't have really big craft breweries, so a lot of people don't have access to the information of knowing that it's more beer besides the one you find in your store. So they don't even have like home brewers. So less of it, they have a homebrew club.
It's kind of related to that question is, what is the current interaction between the big mass producers in Mexico of Mexican lagers with the craft brewers in Mexico? So between the smaller independents and the big guys.
As far as I know, the Grupo Modelo is always in talks with small breweries trying to buy them out, but most of them don't do this for the money, so they stay true to the craft brewing. There are only like 4 or 5 breweries that have been sold to the bigger breweries. One's Cucapá, Cervecería Mexicali, Cervecería Tijuana, were bought by Grupo Modelo, and we have Primus that was bought by Heineken Mexico. So I've heard a couple of big breweries from Baja that have been approached by Grupo Modelo, but they didn't sell the brewery.
So I've got a question. What's the homebrew store scene look like there? Do you guys have a lot of homebrew stores, and then do you guys do a lot of online? Is it mostly online?
In TJ, we have 3 stores. One of them is a really big store that also supplies for the craft breweries that it's called Beermex. They are actually from Jalisco. Okay, they're from Merida, but the biggest warehouse is Jalisco. We also have one warehouse in TJ, and they sell by how it's called, by bulk, and they also send you by pound. And we have a couple of smaller stores that sell mostly for home brewers by pound.
Do some of the big brewers actually brew craft beer styles and sort of get away from the light lagers and light and ambers?
They have tried a couple of times, like selling a fake IPA by Cuauhtémoc Moctezuma, or selling, branding a Pilsner like it was a Weiss beer, or stuff like that. But those beers don't last too much, because people that know about craft know that is not craft beer, and people that drink commercial beer isn't interested about what's an IPA. They don't care about it.
So one of the slides that you had on there, you were talking about all the breweries and the brewery explosion, because it was amazing how many new breweries came in. Yeah, we can go back to that slide. Yeah, that's it right there. And there's in 2012 there's 55 microbreweries, and then suddenly there in 2022 there's 2,000 microbreweries. And you mentioned down here that 19% of the breweries are brewing an average production of 3.4 barrels per year. And that's, I think a lot of us homebrewers brew more than that every year. So I'm wondering what is the story with those breweries? I mean, what if you were to go look at some of that 19%, what would they look like? But is this just sort of mom and pop places brewing on a street corner and serving it in their, fish taco stand or something like that? Or what is the story behind them?
Yeah, it's funny because with those breweries, I mean, there's kind of a very blurry line between what is a craft brewery, a commercial brewery, and a home brewer. So yes, these breweries actually are selling their beer; they are getting some profit, but obviously at those volumes, I mean, they don't live on that. So it's many people have their breweries and they brew only on weekends, and on every weekday they have like their day job. So it's blurry because they actually sell, they have branding, they might have a couple of sales points, they go to the festivals, but yeah, they're very, very, very small. Yeah, I mean, I was myself surprised to see like that average of 3.4 barrels. I mean, that's very, very small. Do you want to?
Have you looked into the number of BJCP judges in Mexico? I think that could be really easily available information from BJCP. That could be a really cool slide to see where those judges are located within the country.
Good question. We didn't do that, but yeah, we're certainly going to do. So on our survey, we have questions about if there were BACP judges affiliated to the clubs, and every club had at least one. So we had some numbers on how many BACP club judges are affiliated to a club, but we don't really know how are BACP judges that are not affiliated to any clubs, how are they spread into Mexico. Something that it's funny about BACP in Mexico and actually all Latin America is that BACP is very often used to judge commercial craft beer, as opposed to here, I understand is much more directed to homebrewing. But yeah, I assume that there will be many BACP judges that really have nothing to do with craft beer, but nothing to do with home brewing, but they have their badges because they taste and judge actually craft commercial beer.
I'm curious, what are your favorite craft breweries in Mexico, especially in Baja?
Probably my favorite craft brewery is Fauna, which is from Mexicali. You, Kevin?
I can rank them. My favorite brewery is Insurgente from Tijuana. After that's going to be Wendland, and the third one is going to be Cervecería de Colima in Colima. So, yeah, those are my favorites. Have you ever tried any Mexican brewery?
Wendland and yeah. I've been in most of those, but not Colima.
Okay, great.
Another one of my favorites is Hércules. I didn't say because it's not in Baja, it's in Querétaro. But yeah, that's also a very cool brewery.
Is there, excuse me, is there a national homebrew organization in Mexico?
Yes, we are going. Well, I have plans of interviewing them before our homebrew com presentation, but yeah, there's actually one. It's kind of new. I don't know. I didn't know too much about them recently, but yes, there is. Do you know more about them? I know Marco Jimenez is their president.
Javier Jimenez. Javier Jimenez. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, actually, they started a couple of years ago, but they don't have like enough influence because, as you can see, there are not enough homebrew clubs, and there are not enough people that are interested in being part of one. But there is the association that it's like the equivalent of the AHA. But yeah, they are still in the works because not many people have been affiliated to that, and they are trying to work through us, through the clubs, to get people interested in the other one. But most of the problems they have is that they don't have like as much benefits, so people isn't interested about that. It's opposed like this, the American Homebrew Association, that has the HomebrewCon, has discounts in breweries, has discounts in supplies, and they have like the newsletter, the magazine, a lot of resources.
All right, I think we've got time for a couple more questions. I think Brian might have one up there.
So this is kind of responding to a lot of questions in the room about how craft brewing and how pro brewing, craft brewing, kind of one and the same. And Louis' question about that is like, I've been judging with these guys for about like 9 years. Mexicali, Tijuana, and Ensenada fests, or Ensenada, craft brew competitions. And I will say that the huge change is like the quality of beer. I've seen the quality of the beer go through the roof in a very short amount of time. I mean, there was a lot of craft breweries that kind of did it, package stuff right, or there was only like a few breweries that were really winning, and a couple of people were really mopping up all this stuff. But for the last, I would say 2 years, it's insane. Going to an award ceremony, it's every single brewery from all these different regions, and it's just a wider range of where medals are being won now. So, and I guess Kurt could definitely nod his head to that. It's insane. It's like all these breweries are, wait a minute, who are they? Where are they from? So.
Yeah, so in line with what Brian says, I mean, just before the pandemic, we were kind of used to see at competitions, to see a couple of breweries winning 8, 9 medals. Right now in competition, it's very hard to see one with 5. So yeah, like the medal share it's been more scattered than it was.
All right, any other questions?
Is there a tasting room culture in Mexico? So here we'll have both craft breweries and macro breweries put out different beers that they're experimenting with, small batch productions, and people will go specifically to the breweries to check those out and try the new stuff. Does Modelo or any of these other craft breweries have something similar?
Yes, not in all regions. I mean, it's funny how to see how craft beer is sold in different places. But yeah, for example, in Baja, almost every brewery has a tasting room, and most craft beer drinkers will go to a brewery to have beers. But for example, in Mexico City, that is not a thing. You have like, I mean, it's slowly changing, but you have like tap rooms that sell beer from many different breweries, and that's where most craft beer drinkers go. So yeah, it's been emerging. I mean, with time, there is more and more craft breweries opening their own tap rooms. But yeah, I mean, in some places it wasn't a thing. Baja used to be kind of the exception to that, but that trend is emerging in other places. About the big breweries, no, Modelo and Cuauhtémoc, or well, Heineken Mexico now, they have many like sales points, like small stores, but not really tasting rooms. Do you want to add something, Kevin?
Yeah, it's funny because most of the breweries, at least in Baja, have their tasting room. Quite hand of them have more than 2 tasting rooms, but it doesn't show anymore the map. But it's similar to the percentage of beer brewed in each state. In Baja, we have a lot of tasting rooms. We only in TJ, in downtown TJ, we have like 10 tasting rooms from 10 different breweries, and you can do a walk about them in I think it's 4 blocks. You can visit 10 different breweries. So and also really interesting is in Mexico City, that has the biggest population in the country. You can find tasting rooms from breweries from Querétaro, breweries from Monterrey, breweries from Baja, from Jalisco. They don't have the brewery there, but they sell their beers in their own tasting room in Mexico City. Also happens in Guadalajara. You have tasting rooms from breweries from Mexico, from Baja or from Monterrey. So that's happening also from Colima.
All right. Any other questions? All right. Well, thank you, gentlemen. It was very good.
Yeah. Thank you very much for having us here and to going through our, well, mainly my awful accent. So hopefully it wasn't that awful.
Yeah, thanks again. Any feedback will be very, very welcome. I mean, our idea is to have a presentation that's interesting to all people that will be attending. So you're a great sample of what we're going to see. So yeah, please reach out.
All right, let's give another hand to Kevin and Ignacio, please.